All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of the Sports Department Podcast. I am Stephen Bologna, joined alongside Jesse Norman, and it is time for everyone's favorite time. NFL mock drafts coming around. We're about 2.5 months before the NFL draft in late April. So it's time for Bologna and Norman's mock draft 1.0. This is going to be our pre-free agency mock draft. So we are excited to listen to all the rumors going around, make our picks for all these teams, get some trades in there that might happen. So we're going to go through all 1 through 32 today. But Jesse, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm not getting hit with the snow. I'm getting rain, so I'm looking forward to that. Pretty happy I don't have to shovel.
Yeah, I wish I could say the same thing. Unfortunately, I can't. I got about 15 inches here. NFL draft April, I think 26th is the first round. We're still waiting on if there's going to be an NFL combine. We're not sure yet. You assume probably not, but again, you never know these things. Like I said, we're going to go 1 through 32 right down the list. Me and Jesse, we're each going to say who each team we think they should take, maybe some surprise picks. You never know. And then we're going to discuss. So let's get right into it, Jesse. I'll give you number 1. Now, this is a tough pick. You got to think about this one.
I think everybody in the world should be on the same page here, and that's Trevor Lawrence to the Jaguars. The Urban Meyer hire does not change anything. There's absolutely no way they take Fields here. It's got to be Lawrence. He is at least the best quarterback prospect since Luck. Some would say since Manning. Some would say of all time. There's absolutely no way you pass on him with the number 1 pick.
I'm with you. And it's funny because, people say, oh, Fields and Urban Meyer were, together at Ohio State. They weren't even together at Ohio State. So, Meyer, he wants to, come in and obviously do some smoke screens by saying, yeah, everyone's available number 1. But this is an obvious one. We don't have to spend too much time. They need a quarterback desperately, and they won the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes thanks to the Jets messing up. So pretty easily here. Number 1 overall with Trevor Lawrence from Clemson heading down to Jacksonville. Number 2, this is where the draft really starts, I guess. I think with rumors swirling, I think the Jets get a deal done with Houston for Deshaun Watson. So my first trade is going to come in right here with Houston on the board. And I'm going to go with Zach Wilson out of BYU, QB. This is, a mobile guy with really good accuracy, a solid arm, and kind of came up out of nowhere, flew up draft boards, and he's confident too, which you love to see out of a prospect. I mean, the less confident prospect we saw was like Baker Mayfield, and you see how he's kind of translated to the NFL. I'm not comparing the two, but I think that with having the number 2 pick, Houston's probably not going to believe in Darnold, probably won't even ask for him back in a deal. So I think Zach Wilson's the pick here.
I don't know if the Jets and Houston get that deal done. I'm going to err on the side of caution. I think the Jets and Saleh like Darnold enough that I think they draft Sewell here. Okay. You are guaranteeing your left tackle spot and your right tackle spot for the next 10 plus years with Sewell and Becton. Even if Darnold's not the guy and you have to go out next year and get somebody, that line is now a full strength for the Jets.
I'm with you. If the Jets do keep this pick, I think Sewell or maybe Devonta Smith might be an option here. I did read this morning that the Jets were listening to offers for Darnold, so maybe a quarterback might be in play here at number 2. Excuse me. So we'll have to see what Joe Douglas does this year, because he had a pretty solid draft last year in his first one as GM. Now, speaking of Houston, they should have had this pick, but they didn't, and now they don't, and it goes to Miami. So who the Dolphins going to take?
I've got Devonta Smith. I think, there's a lot of speculation that he could fall in the draft. I don't see it happening. I think he's a top 6 pick. At the latest, I think he doesn't fall past Philly. I don't think Miami is ready to move off of Tua just yet. You have to give him a guy that he's played with, he has chemistry with, and with the Alabama roots. I think you got to go Smith here. You have Smith and you have Devontae Parker. Obviously, they're building an offense up down in Miami.
Yeah, I'm with you. I had Smith here as well. Just the connection with him and Tua. Just if you drafted Tua to be your franchise guy, and that's yet to be seen, but why not give him his best friend in college, the guy he had the most success with? It depends. I think Jamar Chase is an option here, depending who Miami likes more. But I think Tua might be able to give his blessing on this one and say, I want to play with Smith. And if Sewell's off the board, I think Smith is the pick here. So, so we both went with Devonta Smith in that one. Moving on to number 4, a lot of big players off the board so far. This one, the Falcons are on the clock here, and I'm going to go here. I think the Matt Ryan era is done. I think the Falcons know this. New head coach Arthur Smith wants to come in, fresh new quarterback, and this is where I think Justin Fields comes off the board.
I completely agree.
Yeah,
I think they probably shop Ryan. If they find a deal, they move him. If not, Fields probably sits for the first 8 to 10 games. But I think they're taking Fields here. I don't think they can realistically, sit at number 4 and not even think about a quarterback with Matt Ryan being so up there in age.
Yeah, I mean, and there's really no other major positions of need. They drafted 3 offensive linemen with their first 3 picks last year. You have Julio and Calvin Ridley, and you can easily get a team like Washington or Indianapolis to give you a first-round pick for Matt Ryan. So I think they move on from him. The era is done. They lost the Super Bowl, and they have not been the same since. So get some new blood in there, new regime, and I think Justin Fields is the pick here. Number 5, Bengals. They're on the clock here. I'll let you take this one. I know you're a Joe Burrow guy.
This is where I have a trade going down.
Trade alert.
I have the Bengals trading number 5 to the Carolina Panthers for number 8, throwing a second-round pick either this year or next year. And the Carolina Panthers go up and they grab Zach Wilson.
Okay.
I think everything coming out of Carolina, they seem like they're really not, they don't want Teddy for the next year or two. He was more of a stopgap solution, which is fine, but you kind of just wish they didn't sign him to the 3-year deal then.
Yeah.
I mean, Teddy, he's a good quarterback. We've seen him all over the place. He's always performed well, but I think this is where Carolina makes that trade up, makes that move, and gets the guy that Matt Rule really wants behind center.
I love that, and I think the Panthers are actually the betting favorite for Deshaun Watson at the moment. So clearly, it's out there that they need a QB, and if the Houston asking price is too high, they're in a prime spot to trade up. Even at number 8, if they stay, good spot. But with my mock, I think the Bengals they stay put, and I have them taking Penei Sewell from Oregon. You have Jonah Williams there, left tackle. Like you said, the Jets, shore up your tackles for Joe Burrow because this is a guy that got demolished last year. One of the worst offensive lines in the game.
I think if Sewell is there, Bengals have to grab him. But if he's not, I really look at them to trade down because Philly's not going a lineman. Detroit really shouldn't go a lineman, and then they're picking at 8. So I mean, if you look at it that way, yeah.
Yeah. But I think if you're Cincinnati, you have to protect your franchise QB, and Sewell is that guy. At number 6, everyone's favorite team, especially down there where you're from, the Philadelphia Eagles. I have them getting a guy that they need to take, and that's Jamar Chase from LSU. You need a receiver desperately.
I think the only other person you could maybe argue with them at 6 is Micah Parsons because somehow, as bad as their wide receiving core is, their linebacking core might be even worse. But I also have them taking Chase. He's a generational wide receiver. We have potentially 2 generational wide receiver talents in this draft. And the Eagles they've had a bad receiving core even during the Super Bowl run. I mean, they really got to get some guys, and they consistently always draft the wrong receiver. They draft J.J. Arcega-Whiteside instead of DK Metcalf. They draft Jalen Reagor, who was definitively probably the worst rookie receiver out of all of the ones available last year. They got to get this right. They got to take one of the top 2 wide receivers off the board, it's got to be Chase.
Especially since it appears Zach Ertz is coming up in trade talks. You're going to need that top target for whoever your quarterback is, and Chase fits the bill. A little interesting. We have to see how he performs with a year out of college football. He opted out this season, which I think may really help Devonta Smith's case, especially him winning the Heisman and going off. So from the Eagles, we move to the Lions. Another team big in trade talks. They just acquired Matthew Stafford, which we're going to probably dive into another podcast episode. But they hold number 7 here, and I'll let you take this one.
Even though they have Goff, I don't think they're done looking for a quarterback.
Interesting.
I think they take Lance here.
Interesting.
I think the jury is out on Goff. I think everybody knows what Goff is. He's not that franchise level quarterback. Maybe he proves me wrong, but I still think Detroit, multiple reports coming out. If there's a quarterback there that they like, they're going to take him. Now, is it Lance, the quarterback that they like? Maybe. I'm thinking that it's probably Fields. Fields probably isn't there for them. So I'm going to say that they take Lance, but look, I would not be surprised if Detroit tries to trade up to possibly number 4 if Atlanta's listening. I think Detroit wants Justin Fields, but I don't think he's going to be there. I think the next best option with him gone is Trey Lance. He has all the tools, but he needs to be developed.
Yeah, Lance is an interesting one because he only played 1 game this season. Obviously, he is FCS quarterback. So, maybe he's going to be biting off kneecaps next season. But I think you have Jared Goff, a serviceable QB. I'm going to go with Jalen Waddle, wide receiver, Kenny Gallaudet, and Marvin Jones. They're gone off the roster. So I think you have to get your wide receiver. And this is a guy who, if he didn't get hurt, might have had a better year than Devonta Smith. So I think you get a guy that has the speed of Tyreek Hill and the catching ability of a guy like, I don't even know, Julio Jones, I'll say. Just a really, really good prospect. And if he didn't get hurt, we're talking maybe he's the number 1 receiver off the board. So the Lions have to get a wide receiver 1, and I think they grab him here.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Marvin Jones Jr. and Kenny Gallaudet. I think one of them will be back. I think it'll most likely be Gallaudet. I don't think they're going to bring Marvin Jones back.
Yeah.
I think that fits, but also, Detroit has such a bad record of taking receivers and, these positional players in the first round and then pretty much just wasting their primes for 4 to 5 years. So I think that works, but I do think Detroit really doesn't like Goff, and I think that's evident by the trade that went down. They had to get an extra first-round pick just to take on his contract.
Yeah. We're going to see what the Lions want to do there. But so the next pick, you would have Cincinnati, and I have the Panthers. And I'll let you. Who's Cincinnati grabbing?
Rashawn Slater, Northwestern.
Good.
He can play tackle. He can play guard. If they want to move him all over, they need the lineman, and this trade works for them because nobody in front of them is gonna go grab a lineman. Detroit's line is solid enough. Philly obviously was really badly hurt last year, but they have a lot of good pieces still there. So this lets them get a top tier offensive lineman while also acquiring, maybe a 2nd-round pick in exchange as well.
Yeah. For me, I have the Panthers picking here, and I have them taking Trey Lance. I think if no one trades up, he would. And depending on what Detroit does, I think he's going to slip there. And again, like we said, Carolina is showing everyone their hand that they want a quarterback. And Lance is a guy that threw 50 touchdowns in his last full season, has the arm talent, has the mobility. Like you said, though, he's a little bit of a project. So I think the Panthers pulled the trigger.
Yeah, no, I think that works for them. If they get Lance, do you think they hold Bridgewater for another year? I certainly would if I'm Carolina.
I think they should.
I would not have Lance start right away. I wouldn't even have him start first 10 games. I think, maybe week 12 is where I would maybe start thinking of throwing him in the mix.
especially because Bridgewater, he's not going to make you a playoff team, so you'll be out of contention by that time. I was actually thinking, remember when Bridgewater was a Jet?
Oh God, yeah, yeah. They just
When
signed
they
him
dumped
for
him.
yeah. They just signed him for nothing. Like nobody else wanted him.
Yeah. So the Broncos are next on the clock here. And for me, I have them taking Quiddy Payne out of Michigan.
Oh,
Um, this is a team that Von Miller, I think they seriously need to consider moving on from him. Bradley Chubb is injury prone, and Payne's a guy you could play in the interior as well. I think it adds some mobility on the defensive line here. This is a team that maybe look at quarterback, Mac Jones, maybe, but I think that's a little high for him.
yeah.
I think the Broncos serious. They have so many needs, but you see a lot of teams these days shoring up the defensive lines, aka Washington, San Francisco, and I think the Broncos can do that here.
I think Denver is going to be too blindly aligned to Von Miller and Chubb. I don't think they move on from them whatsoever. That being said, I do think they're going to grab Caleb Farley from Virginia Tech. They can save $13 million if they cut AJ Boye. They need that money. They need to spread it out other places. Their secondary wasn't great last year as is. It was really Justin Simmons back there. He's 6'2". He's very athletic. He's exactly the build that they kind of want. And I think Denver still thinks that they have a top 10 front seven. I think they think where they need to get better is the secondary. But as you said, edge is probably going to be a need for them moving forward with Von Miller coming off a very serious injury. And don't get me wrong, he's a freak of nature, but who knows if he can really recover from that. And Chubb seems to get hurt every single year.
Yeah. Caleb Farley, another guy going into the season, probably the top corner in college football, opted out, protecting his draft stock, and should be easily top 15 pick. And funny enough, he was my next pick to Dallas. Dallas is a team with a defense that just needs so much help. They finally hired Dan Quinn, and I think Farley would seriously help out that secondary. I mean, you're running out Jordan Lewis and Chidobe Awuzie as your 1 and 2. Something has, and Trevon Diggs, who at times got torched last season. So I think if you shore up a number one guy, a number one corner, it's going to help you out a lot.
Yeah, I think Diggs works better as a safety in the long term, honestly, for Dallas. And I have them taking cornerback Patrick Surtain from Alabama. I think they like Farley, but obviously with him off the board, look, Surtain was a great corner at Bama for 3 years. It's the Cowboys' biggest need. I think they have to go with him here.
I'm with you. Going from one NFC East team to another, the Giants are the next one on the board. And who do you think they're going to grab?
I think he's fallen far enough. I think Micah Parsons has to come off. They don't need a linebacker desperately, but I think he is clearly for me the best player available. And their linebacking core is not great. They can obviously take an upgrade over Mayo. He's a guy that they can develop, and he can play so many positions in a scheme that I think the Giants want to run that, with Leonard Williams being able to play anywhere on the front seven. And then you have Micah Parsons being out there as maybe a coverage linebacker and pass rusher. And obviously you have Jabril Peppers on the back end who can play safety, corner, linebacker. I think Micah Parsons fits very much what they're building in New York.
I love the pick. I've been reading a lot that Parsons' character issues off the field may be hurting his draft stock, and this is why maybe he's fallen here. I think if you pair him with a guy like Blake Martinez, who was a top tackler in the league, that'd be deadly. I think though the need for the Giants, you have Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence. They have serious problems rushing the QB from the edges, and I think Gregory Ross from Miami is going to take over that job. Quiddy Payne was a guy I was considering. I think he's going to get taken earlier. And Rosso is a guy, I think he's like 6'6". He's massive.
He's 6'7", 6'7", 6'9" wingspan.
Really good speed off the edge, good power, good length. And I think the Giants, they have their quarterback. They have some offensive pieces, maybe a lineman here, but I highly doubt it. I think they need to go defense. And I think edge rusher might be the pick, but Parsons would fit nicely.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
49ers next on the clock, and I'm swinging for the fences here. I'm going Kyle Pitts out of Florida, and this could be fun. George Kittle and Kyle Pitts. Wow.
I considered it a lot. I if anybody can make it work, it'd be Kyle Shanahan. But a guy that you had taken, top 6, top 7. I have Jalen Waddle still on the board, and I think they take him. I think that's their big play guy. I think they're going with a skill position here. I think they need wide receiver help. That's Waddle, that's Pitts. They need guys who can catch the ball and can make plays with the ball in their hands. Because if they're rolling out Jimmy Garoppolo, his best thing is 10 yards and in. Like, get the ball to the playmakers, let them do what they need to do.
I think Pitts is interesting because he has the speed and the height to play receiver if you really needed him to. And I mean, him and Kittle, that would just be deadly. And like you said, Kyle Shanahan's the only one that can make that work. And it's also a team that does need receiver help. So I think Waddle, if he's there, again, Waddle, I think he's so undervalued because he got hurt.
That's the thing. It's him being hurt. And how much is that really going to matter in the grand scheme of things when we also have players who have opted out, like Jamar Chase going top 6? We'll see how teams kind of value him going into the draft. But I do think as of right now, he slips. I think Waddle could be very, very beneficial of a combine where he can show off all those talents that he has when he's not limited.
And I think if combines don't happen, I think pro days would be the next thing that you're really going to have to impress at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chargers are next on the clock, and this is a team that hit a home run last year with their first-round pick and probably OROY with Justin Herbert. Who do you have them taking here at 13?
So the defense, I think, obviously gets banged up a lot, but I don't think they necessarily need any upgrades over there. I'm looking at Christian Darrisaw from Virginia Tech. He didn't allow a sack all year, didn't allow a pressure all year. He's an upgrade literally anywhere on the line for them. He probably fits in most as a tackle. That should be what they're upgrading. They have their franchise quarterback. They now need to build around him.
I also have a tackle. I still have Rashawn Slater on my board, and you have your franchise guy. You have to protect him at all costs. There's a team that has missed on offensive linemen recently. I remember they took Forrest Lamp a couple years ago in the second round, and he just hasn't worked out. I couldn't even tell you who their tackles are. That's how rough they are. So they have to shore up the blind sides here of Herbert and let him do his thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Once you find that quarterback, moving forward, when you're a bad team like the Chargers, like the Bengals, these guys who are drafting quarterbacks high, most of the time they also don't really have those good offensive lines. And they need to hit on those guys kind of the second year after they draft.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Next on the board is with the Vikings, and I have them going here. I think they're going to need some secondary help. Patrick Surtain, like you said, from Alabama, a guy with a little bit of a rough playoff this year, a national championship, but don't be alarmed. I mean, this guy's got great speed, height, and athleticism. He's a physical guy. And the Vikings, they drafted, I'm drawing a blank on their first round pick from last year. It was a corner from TCU, but I don't think he had the best year. Anthony Harris is a free agent. I think he might be leaving. So you're going to need a guy in the secondary to shore up things. And I think Surtain fits that bill.
Yeah. I have them going Gregory Ross from Miami. We've already hit on him. He's an athletic freak. He's 6'7". He can pass rush. I like their ability to develop him into an every down linebacker. And it was clear when Danielle Hunter was not there and was out, they could not get any pass rush going at all. I think this is not necessarily a need for them, but this is a player that they can draft at 14. And if they develop him, could end up being a top 3 player in the class.
I'm with you. I think the Vikings team, they still have a really good roster. And I think if they could shore up the defense here, this is a team that barely missed the playoffs this year. So a strong defense could maybe propel them to the playoffs or even a wild card. hopefully. So the next on the board, I'm assuming we have the same pick here, and that's the Patriots.
I
You changed
do not.
You changed it on me.
I did. Everybody thinks the Patriots are going to go Mac Jones. They think they're going to make a knee-jerk reaction. They're going to need a quarterback. I don't think so. What do the Patriots do more than any other team in the league? They trade back, they acquire picks. And I think this one works pretty well. The New England Patriots trade their pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Jaguars snag Kyle Pitts.
Interesting.
Then in Jacksonville, you now have a wide receiver in core, D.D. Westbrook, DJ Shark. Now you just drafted Trevor Lawrence as the quarterback, and you add Kyle Pitts to that. I think you're doing a good service by Trevor Lawrence, getting Pitts at 15, which I think is a slip for him. I just think the problem is with Pitts, there's such a thing about drafting tight ends in the top 10. Like, you don't do that. You're not supposed to draft tight ends very high.
At Detroit.
Yeah, exactly. and especially when it's a guy like we've heard Kyle Pitts prototype of like an Eric Ebron of like, oh, well, he's a tight end, but he moves like a wide receiver. Majority of the time, those guys don't translate well. I think Pitts will. I think he's a phenomenal talent, but I think that's why he might slip down the board more than some people might expect.
Yeah. Pitts is a really good one here, and Patriots they need so much, and an offense could really help them out here. We're on the Cardinals now, and this is a team that had a lot of hype going into the year.
Oh wait, who did you have the Patriots take?
Oh, excuse me, Mac Jones. Mac Jones.
Yeah.
I think this is a team that Cam Newton, they're moving on. I think the Stidham hype is over. You get a guy.
There's no way you roll Stidham back out there after the way that like he played, the way they portrayed him is like, yeah, no, he's definitely in the running. And then Cam was signed like 2 weeks before, and they started him. There's no way.
Exactly, and I think Mac Jones can come in, fit the bill, and thrive with a guy like Bill Belichick. So that would be awesome to see. It just seems like a match made in heaven, but we'll see. The Patriots are probably the most unpredictable team in the entire game. So we'll see. We'll see what they do. But now we're on to the Cardinals, and I'll let you take this one.
I think the Cardinals are getting a steal here with Christian Barmore from
Exactly.
Alabama. The Cardinals' interior defense was the worst in the league. It was abysmal. It was bad. Like, just straight up bad. And we've seen how good Barmore is, even in just the championship game. I mean, he at certain points was taking over from the interior. And I think this is a slam dunk hit for them.
Yeah, I'm with you. Barmore, big physical guy that can really shore up, other than Chandler Jones, a pretty weak defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a really good pick. And offense, maybe receiver here, but I think with DeAndre Hopkins, he equates
I think they're
to
still
a 1, 2,
holding
and a
out
3.
hope. I think they're still holding out hope that Kirk develops.
And Andy Isabella.
Yeah, exactly. I think the thing is, I think Kyler is a really good quarterback, and I think that Arizona thinks that he is like an MVP level quarterback where he can make those, B level, C level receivers into, B plus level receivers.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And next on the board here is the Raiders, and another team that was doing well last year, and they hit the big skid. And I'm going the most Raider guy on the board, Micah Parsons.
Mm.
Oh man, a guy with character issues, sign him up for the Raiders. Just bring him into town.
Just put him on.
And again, this is a team that signed Corey Littleton last year, and he did not work out. And This is a guy that can just easily shore up your entire defense. Like you said, can play multiple positions on defense. And I think this is a steal for him at 18.
Yeah, I have a steal for them, which is Kwity Paye from Michigan. He's got all the tools for pass rushing. That's what the Raiders need help with. I don't know if he necessarily slips this far. He could definitely rise up boards. He's a guy that is going to impress in pro days. He's going to be good in the combine if there is one, because he's very good athletically. But I think the Raiders, regardless of what they do, obviously Parsons is a great pick for them. I think they need pass rush help. They cannot get to the quarterback.
Yeah, other than Max Crosby, it's not good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good at all. Next on the board here, we have the Dolphins, and this is a team one went away from the playoffs. They already had a top 3 pick. We had them taking Devonta Smith. Do they address the defense now?
I have them going tackle. I have them going Sam Cosmi from Texas. He played right tackle for a year. He's played left tackle for 2 years. You can kind of move him wherever you want on the tackle side. You can switch him into a guard. Can probably play everything besides center. I think, again, they're just going to keep beefing up the offense because I think Flores and the defense are fine. I think they've got at least enough foundational pieces that they are going to make it work. And then this is a thing where, they spend their first 2 picks on wide receiver and tackle. Maybe, second round, third round, fourth round, they start getting those depth pieces at linebacker, at edge rusher and cornerback. But I think the biggest need for them with their 2 first round picks should be shoring up the offense, making sure Tua has everything he needs so that if Tua doesn't work out, moving forward, you can get a guy that will, capitalize on all these pieces that you've put around him.
Yeah. Yeah, you speak of linebacker, and they're very mad in our mock that Parsons just got taken. So I have him going next best, probably defensive player on the board, and I'm going to butcher this name from Notre Dame, Jeremiah Owusu Koromoke. Koromoa. He's an athletic freak. Can play linebacker in the box. Can play safety. Can cover. Can rush the passer. I think the Dolphins, they have Kyle Van Noy. He's more of an edge guy. You have very little help in the secondary, in the safety position, that is. I think a guy like Koromoa can just shore up that defense. And, you can, if you get that big defensive guy in the draft early, you can then just build up offense around Tua. And I think he'd be a nice fit there with Brian Flores.
Yeah, no, I think Owusu Koromoa is an interesting case because he can be a player that's going to go anywhere from like 14 to like 30.
Yeah.
It really depends on how a team is going to rate him because while he is an athletic freak, he's a little bit smaller for a linebacker at 6'2", and he's only 215. So, around that weight and height, he's normally a safety. But he's crazy athletic. But I do think he carries some bust potential. But if anybody can swing on that bust potential higher, it should be Miami because they have those Houston picks and they have everything else going for them. And I would expect Flores to develop him pretty well.
Yeah, and just a disclaimer, it's always funny because you have, like, we're talking about guys going in the late teens, and then all of a sudden, draft night, they fly up the boards and they're a number 10, number 11 pick. So you never know with these guys. Washington's on the board next, and I'm very happy to select this guy. This is a team that desperately needs at wide receiver number 2. I'm going with Kadarius Toney out of Florida. I think he is the most undervalued player in the entire draft. At 6'6", has crazy athleticism. He's had a really good Senior Bowl from the highlights and reports that I've read, and I think him with Terry McLaurin could just be really, really good. And Washington's a team that's in the mix for Deshaun Watson. I think they're going to end up with a guy like Cam Newton. But whoever you bring in, give him as many weapons as possible. You have your wide receiver 1, you have your offensive line, you have your running back. Get another receiver, and this could be a really deep playoff team.
Yeah. Due to the Jaguars trading up and New England trading down, Mac Jones is still on the board here. I think they take him.
Interesting.
While I like Toney a lot, I don't know if Washington takes him because I think they're feeling a little too good about Sims. I think they like McLaurin and Sims together. I think, and obviously, Logan Thomas was phenomenal at the tight end spot this year for them. So I worry about them, maybe overlooking the receiver position because I think they might have it figured out. But if Mac Jones is there for them at 19, I think they have to take him. I don't think there's any other way around it. This could be a team that also could potentially trade up to maybe get Mac Jones.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they trade up pretty high to get someone if they miss out on Deshaun Watson or a guy like Dak Prescott, maybe. It is worth noting, I saw a report that Ron Rivera says he likes mobile QBs, and obviously Mac Jones is not that. So maybe Trey Lance trade up potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Very big speculation here.
They also could just, a lot of people think they're going to end up with Cam.
Yeah.
And Rivera is going to keep Cam for a year and see if he can kind of build up that recipe he already had of a really good defense, really good front seven, and kind of let Cam run the offense and see how that goes.
Yeah, I hope good things only happen only. But the Bears are next on the board, and I'll let you take this one.
Chicago needs help on their line, but they're also going to lose Allen Robinson in free agency. So I have them taking Rashad Bateman from Minnesota. This is such a deep offensive line class that they can get those tackles later on. They can get guards later on. They need to replace Allen Robinson. I mean, they already don't have a number 2 receiver, and who even knows if Trubisky's going to be the quarterback next year. Chicago's got so many questions on the offensive front that as long as they go with an offensive player here, it's probably the right call. As long as they just do not draft a defensive player here, it's probably the right move.
Yeah. I have them taking Christian Darrisaw. He's still on my board. Like you said, this is a guy that I think is more athletic than Wirfs was last year, and we know him as an athletic freak. Didn't let up a sack all of last season, like you said. So I think the Bears, whoever they bring in at QB, is going to need some protection. But I like the receiver pick too if Robinson does decide to walk, which all indications seem to be showing.
He's gone. Yeah, I think he's out. I think he's tired of playing with bad quarterbacks. He's not sticking around.
I'm with you. The Colts are on the board. Everyone's favorite team. Anthony Costanzo's gone. He's retired. So I have them taking Elijah Vera Tucker from USC. Big physical tackle, and I think really whoever, if the Colts decide to draft a tackle, whoever, have it be Cosme, if Darrisaw falls, or Tucker, they're going to be your starting left tackle day one. And whoever it is, a really good offensive line coach and a really good offensive line around him can make this guy a stud.
Yeah, I think Colts fans want this to be a bigger splash than it is. I think they want a bigger name. I have him going Tevin Jenkins from Oklahoma State. He can play right side, but also he played 500 snaps as a left tackle. This gives them flexibility with Costanzo retiring. Do they maybe move Braden Smith over to left tackle, let Tevin Jenkins start as the right tackle? I think that's what they're going to do going into the year. I think if they draft a lineman, they're probably going to start at right tackle, and they'll probably move Braden to left. I think they have to go a lineman here. Costanzo retiring kind of put them in that position where that's kind of what they got to do.
And this is a Colts team that needs a quarterback now. They missed out on Stafford, who it seemed like that was their guy.
And the quarterback market that we've talked about so much seems to have shrunken a lot in the past couple of days. Stafford's with the Rams, obviously now. It sounds like Wentz and the Eagles are sticking together. The Jets have doubled down on Darnold, saying they kind of, want to stick with him. Yeah. They can't really get in on the Watson trade because they're in conference. Division. They're in division. Yeah. So they're not going to really do that. So the Colts are kind of sitting in no man's land where Rivers already retired. And honestly, I think they're probably going to ask him back. I think that's what they're going to end up doing.
Or they may have to trade up here for a QB because
I don't see Ballard doing it. I think Ballard likes his picks too much. He likes the value of the second rounders and he likes all those. I don't think he trades up. Ballard just doesn't strike me as a guy that's going to trade up, especially unless he really likes the quarterback that's there. He said himself, I'm not going to just pick a guy to pick him. I need to feel good about the pick. So, who would they really feel good about? The best option would probably be Fields. And at that point, you got to trade up to, 4.
Yeah, you got to go high. I saw a report that they were interested in Jameis Winston, maybe. So, man, they need something. They need something. But the offensive line will help whoever does come in. Titans are next, and I'll let you take. Who had the last one? I think.
You started last one. Last one.
So it's all you.
I'm gonna absolutely butcher this name. Azeez Ojulari from Georgia. Point blank, Tennessee was bad at rushing the passer. Clowney was bad. Everybody was bad. Their first round pick from a couple years ago, or second round pick, Jeffrey Simmons Jr. He had an okay year, but he hasn't developed the way they thought. Ojulari had a huge bowl game showing. He's moving up boards. This was a guy that was probably, like a mid-second to early second rounder that I think is going to kind of slide into a mid-first, late first. But this is just a position of need for them. You cannot be a top tier team in the AFC and not be able to put pressure on quarterbacks.
One thing with Tennessee is they love their depth at corner, and Malcolm Butler's getting up there in age, and he's not that good. I have him going J.C. Horn out of South Carolina. Just, they traded for Desmond King at the deadline. I just think the more secondary they have will help out their defensive line. And barring what free agency brings, I think Horn's a physical guy that could just help them out big time. So that's me for the Titans.
Yeah.
Jets are next on the board, number 23, and I think they need a receiver. So I have Rashad Bateman going here. Really big physical wide receiver that, along with, he can honestly be the wide receiver 1 walking into the building, funny enough. But I think if the Jets are able to grab him, whoever they have a QB, him and Mims could be a really solid duo.
Yeah, I think they go receiver here, no matter what, no matter who's left. On my board, I still have Kadarius Toney there. Like you said, he's crazy elusive. He's 6'6". He's a great, having somebody at that height who also has the potential as a gadget player where you can just get him the ball and he takes some pressure off your offense. That's huge. And I think if he falls to 23, the Jets would love to take him.
I think the Jets know that they have to go basically all offense at 2, 23, and 34. Yeah. I think it's
absolutely.
It's a foregone conclusion. Now, next team on the board. Oof, what a squad! And I'll let you take the honors on this one.
A lot of people with Pittsburgh are thinking they're going to go lineman option because Villanueva's contract is up. They don't have a definitive right tackle. If there's one thing I know about Pittsburgh, it's that they love big zone corners. And Tyson Campbell out of Georgia, he's 6'2". He played almost strictly zone at Georgia. I think he fits perfectly what they're doing there. Joe Hayden, as loved as he is, he might be a cap casualty. Nelson and Hilton both didn't have as good a years as the year prior. Getting some new blood into that secondary, I think can help a lot. Even if he, doesn't pan out necessarily as a corner this year, you can probably have him start at strong safety because Edmonds has been so up and down. I think getting young players into that secondary is only a good thing moving forward for Pittsburgh.
I'm going other side of the ball here. Call me crazy. This is a team that James Conner has not been doing much since a couple years ago. Benny Snell hasn't worked out. I'm going to go with Naji Harris from Alabama. This is a team that Big Ben's getting up there in age. I think they really could rely on the running game next year. And I wanted to go ETN here, but I think Naji Harris is really strong college football playoff and championship this year. Just kind of excels him to probably be the number 1 running back in the class. And I think the Steelers this is a really big position of need. Like I said, Connor has been super inconsistent. Benny Snell really inconsistent at times. And who's your there's another running back on the roster.
They have Samuels back there. They have McFarland too.
That they took last year. But I think Harris he's physical, can catch out of the backfield and could really help out Ben and propel him another year.
Yeah, I would love if Pittsburgh did that, but sadly, with first round picks, Pittsburgh doesn't take what they need. They take depth positions every time. So I can't even think of the last guy that they drafted and actually had a need for when they drafted him, and then it actually worked out.
Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna reach. I think they'll probably go with a depth position, but I would love Harris.
Yeah.
I just don't think they do it.
So the Jaguars would be next on my board, at least. So I believe this is number 25 pick. 25, yeah. I'm going to go with Zaven Collins, linebacker out of Tulsa, winner of the nation's best linebacker award. This is a team that can use a lot of defense. You've already got your QB in your mock. They got another wide receiver as well. So I think defense here can help out. This is a defense with some pieces. I mean, Josh Allen, C.J. Henderson. They have a good veteran there with Joe Schobert, and Collins has the ability to rush the QB as well. So I think this would be a really nice, really good value pick as well for them.
Yeah, I have this pick. Jaguars traded to the Patriots, so the Patriots are drafting for their first guy at 25, and I have them go Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I think Belichick will have a lot of fun with him. I think he is probably the most comparable to an Isaiah Simmons type in this draft, where he can play pretty much at all of the levels. He's an athletic freak, and I think he fits into the Patriots system well, where he can play in that Jamie Collins type role, where he can pretty much do whatever they're asking of him.
That would be a very good pick for them. Browns next on the clock here, and I'll let your second favorite team in the league. So,
Cleveland, they honestly don't have a lot of holes on their team. I think their biggest need is a lead linebacker, a player who can really help them lead the defense. And while he may not be the best linebacker available, I think Nick Bolton from Missouri is their best option. He plays hard. He can set the tone for them. He's, a Blake Martinez type. He's just a tackle machine. He's going to finish the year with 100+ tackles. Again, not the most athletic, not necessarily the best linebacker available, but a great leader and a player that I think can really help them on the defensive end, really get an identity.
I'm going to go offense here, and I think the Browns, they lost to the Chiefs by not being able to put up many points. Odell Beckham Jr. coming off a torn ACL. I think teams start calling about him. Donovan Peoples-Jones, great pick. But I think they're going to get creative here and go Rondale Moore from Purdue. Mm-hmm. Rondale Moore is a guy severely undersized. Let me say that. I think he's like 5'9", which is terrible. I hate that so much. But he is a gadget guy who's really good in the open space. He's elusive. And I think Stefanski, he's a creative guy. And with Baker Mayfield, give him as many weapons as possible and play the Chiefs at their own game. Insane offensive potential here if you add more. And I think they know that they're going to have to do something along those lines if they eventually want to beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Rondale Moore. I have him going next to the Ravens.
Perfect.
I think he, like you said, he's got terrible size, but he is a gadget player. And who works with gadget players more than Baltimore? It's kind of sad. You would like to see Baltimore, I think, add, a big body receiver, give Lamar like an actual receiver to throw to. But I think that's maybe where they go and get Allen Robinson. Yes. And then if they draft Rondale Moore, you're looking at, Allen Robinson, Rondale Moore, and Marquise Brown. They have speed to burn. They got a lot of trick plays they can offer. They have a lot of things they can do moving forward. So I think Baltimore goes Rondale Moore at 27.
I think with Baltimore, like you said, clearly a receiver is a need. I think I'm going to go with a little bit of a reach here. Terrence Marshall Jr. from LSU, 6'4", took over the role for Jamar Chase this year. And I know LSU had a bad year, but he didn't. Lamar needs help badly. Mm-hmm. Other than Mark Andrews, Marquise Hollywood-Brown is not it. Willie Snead is not it. So you have to get a really, really strong receiver here. And I think Marshall fits the bill. Their defense, we know what it is. Very good. They could go defense here. I don't know if you've seen recently. I think it's either Brown or Stanley, one of the two. Potentially,
Brown.
like
Brown.
he's upset. I've seen.
Yeah, I've heard Brown might be out. If Brown's out, I would not at all be surprised. On my board, I still have Elijah Vera Tucker. I think he would be a great fit there. But I think they'll figure it out. Baltimore's pretty good at helping disgruntled stars and getting them back in. But this really comes down to, again, what they do in free agency. If they go out and get Allen Robinson, all of a sudden now they can go and get a tackle at 27.
Yeah, and we're going to be dropping our post free agency mock draft, and that literally changes everything. You could have a team quarterback need to go out there and sign a guy like Dak Prescott. God forbid he leaves Dallas. So you just never know. So next on the board would be the Saints, and oh man, the Saints. This is going to be a really tough offseason for them. They're nearly $100 million over the cap, and I have them going with Carlos Basham Jr., defensive end, and this is a team that Trey Hendrickson, free agent, and I think if they have,
and he's gone. He's gone. There's no way he put up 13 and a half sacks this year.
Yeah,
there's no way they're paying him.
And Cam Jordan's contract might have to come off the books. Marcus Davenport hasn't worked out, so I think if you get a guy like Basham Jr. here, just shore up the defensive end here. Quarterback, who knows what they're going to do? There's just so many question marks with this team, and there's a lot of guys they have to get rid of.
Yeah,
and structure their contracts.
Yeah, no, and you didn't even hit. They have basically all of their secondary is coming off the books besides Lattimore, pretty much. So I have them taking a player that I like a lot and I think can be an absolute steal, and that's Travion Moehrig from TCU. He is a ball hawk. He can play safety. He can play corner. I think he offers them, an upgrade kind of over the free agents that are about to leave. But yeah, no, the Saints, they're going to be an interesting thing to watch because, like you said, they have contracts on contracts that need to come off the books. That defense played so well last year, but how many of those pieces are they going to actually be able to keep moving forward?
Yeah. Next on the board here, as we kind of get down to the end here, it's Green Bay Packers. So I'll let you, another team, probably some quarterback rumors going around, probably nothing going to happen, but who do you think they grab?
I have Packers going Elijah Vera Tucker from USC. While the Packers do have a good line, they saw their Super Bowl dreams absolutely destroyed by injuries.
Yeah.
This allows them to actually add some depth, maybe move some players around. I think they would love to add a middle linebacker. They have not recovered from letting Blake Martinez go. That being said, I don't think there's a guy there at middle linebacker that really helps them right now, picking at 29. So at that point, if there's nobody really there that you like, your edges are already pretty secured with Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith. You obviously have Jair is locking down the one spot for cornerback. I think you might as well just go with a gadget player or a gadget lineman with Elijah Vera Tucker.
Yeah, I'm sticking with the old line, and you're rocking Billy Turner at right tackle. That's not good.
Mm-hmm.
You have Bakhtiari, best left tackle in the game. I'm going to go with Sam Cosmi, guy you had taken a little while ago. Again, offensive line, just a need here, and receiver maybe, but at this point, or the way our board's kind of shaped out, there's no really receiver that's not going to be a reach. So I think offensive line and Cosmi for me is the guy that is the guy they're going to grab.
Yeah.
Also, Alex Leatherwood's a guy that may, could be looked at in this situation. Bills next on the board, and I'm excited about this pick. I'm excited. I'm going with Travis Etienne. Oh man, this could be fun. Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. I mean, come on. These guys are not good. Not good at all. Etienne is shifty. He can catch out of the backfield. He's elusive at finding room between the tackles. And I would be excited if I got to see him in an offense with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. I think it's a perfect fit.
I think that's a great pick. I do think they're going to go defense. And I think they have a definitive need for pass rushers.
Yes.
Mario Addison is old. Jerry Hughes is old. Milano's about to be in his last year, and he's no spring chicken. I think they go Jason Owe from Penn State. Gives them a young pass rusher. He's good against the run too. That was the one knock on him coming into this year, was he was strictly a pass rusher, and then this year with Penn State, he really showed that he could be on the field during run plays as well. I think he's solid. I think they don't get him into the fold as much this year, but with Milano moving on probably next year, and then, Hughes being at that point probably 34, 35, Addison, hovering around mid-30s as well. I think they need some of those young guys coming off the edge.
Yeah. Again, this defense really good at times. I'm okay. I'm good. Thank you. Tired. I'm making lunch.
Right.
Snowy day. Gotta eat. But I'm gonna go next pick here, and it's the Bucks, and it's you. So I'll let you dabble in this one.
I mean, Tampa doesn't really have many needs, similar to kind of how Cleveland is. But I have them going with Alex Leatherwood from Alabama. This gives them the flexibility to either keep Donovan Smith or, cut him, maybe put his money somewhere else. But also having depth along the line is always good when you have Tom Brady around. They really hit on the Tristan Wirfs pick. And I think this could, we're looking at Brady, but let's say Brady only has a year or two left. Moving forward, you have Wirfs and you have Leatherwood securing the line for the next 10 years. Who's not going to want to be the quarterback in Tampa moving forward at that point?
Yeah, that would be that would be a really good pick for them. For me, I think I'm going to go with Jason Owe here from Penn State. You just mentioned him. Shaq Barrett is technically a free agent at the end of the year. So if he decides to move on and chase the bag somewhere else, Ndamukong Suh is getting up there in age, only a 1-year deal. I think they can use some more versatility on the defensive line. JPP, yes, he's still doing good, but again, getting up there in age. So I think if you bring it away, he can learn from these guys and would be a really, really good versatile piece for this D-line, because really they don't have many holes. They really don't. I mean, I saw a mock where they had Devontae Smith falling this far, and I don't know what drugs that guy. I don't know what drugs that guy was on.
Yeah, but, no chance. Absolutely not.
Yeah, but rounding out here, again, this is my mock, at least. I had the Chiefs winning it technically.
Yeah, I also have the Chiefs. Especially they have the better record, so realistically, you're supposed to have them lower anyway.
Yes. Yeah. So the Chiefs here at 32. I think you said him earlier, Azeez Ojulari. Again, offense, you're fine on offense. I think tackle might be a question here, depending if they want to move on from Eric Fisher, because he just tore his Achilles, unfortunately. I don't think that's the case. But so I'm going to go with Ojulari and just shore up another key defensive piece that Spagnuolo can work with.
Yeah. I think Alex Leatherwood would be a great pick here for them. If they could get him, they could slide him in day one. I have a corner slipping, and that's J.C. Horn from South Carolina.
That'd be nice.
Kansas City, they love to bolster their secondary. They love you seen it last year with Snead. They like to get these guys. And Horn is a possible, top 25, top 20 pick that I think just ends up, sliding in my mock. And I think Kansas City would absolutely love to have him.
That rounds it out right there. This was fun. This was solid.
This was fun. This was a good one.
We're gonna wait to see what happens with the combine, and then once the season's over and free agency hits, it's gonna change everything. We could have our mocks looking 10 times different, and most likely that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Come early April. I think free agency starts like March. It's always like March 14th or something. Right?
Yeah, I think so.
So
mid-March.
Yeah, so we're going to be excited about that one. But Jesse, this was fun. Thank you so much. Got the dogs barking out here. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on, Jesse. Thank you all so much for listening. If you want to subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, this is the Sports Department Podcast. Our socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Sports Dept Pod. That's Sports DEPT Pod. Had a big wrestling event last night, Jesse, so I assume you're going to be making a pod about that one.
Yeah, it should be up probably around Tuesday, review of the Royal Rumble.
Oh, man, I'm excited for that one. And maybe a baseball episode coming up very soon. But thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.